Easy troop. So in today's video, I want to show you a relatively simple concept just to take your drums in a mix from where they're kind of sitting there, they're nice, to really popping through just with one plugin. It's a nice simple tool that you can use. There's multiple ones that can do it. I'll show you what I'm using today. Here's the difference before and after. It's very, very simple. It's very subtle, but just listen to how much more the drums punch through, but we're not adding any gain, we're not oversaturating them, nothing like that. It's really, really simple. So here we go. So hopefully you picked up on that. They're a lot snappier, they're popping through the mix a lot more. Take it away. Ready? It's really, really simple. Let me show you how I set it up. Now, today I'm using Neutron 5, but there are many other tools that also can let you do this effect, so you don't have to go out and get Neutron specifically. It's just that I use the suite a lot. It makes sense to use the tool that's in there. I'll show you some other suggestions as well. All right, so the first thing you need to do for this is group all your drums together. So you'll see over here, I've got something called a break. And if we just loop ourselves around a nice busy section like so, you can see we've got those different elements in there. I've got a drum break, a kick layer, a snare layer, another topper, some hats and shakers, all the things that go together to make a break, all on the one channel, right? To do that in Logic, I'm going to sum them up to a bus, so they all go out to bus 6. That sums them up to a break bus right here. Now, to help all those different elements kind of sit together, they are glued together a little bit, just with a tiny bit of compression all around the kick, with a relatively slow-ish 51 milliseconds on the compressor. So the kick goes in, everything kind of ebbs and flows just a little bit with that kick rhythm, just to kind of glue it together. You don't need to do this, it's just what I like to do, so a break kind of feels like it was all one thing always, rather than these different elements put together. It works for me. But what we're actually doing is we're enhancing everything with a little bit of a dynamic trickery. So the other thing going on here is a slight top end lift. This is just to make that break a little bit brighter. Yeah, so nothing wild going on there. I just brightened everything up a little bit. And then this is the tool that is doing the trick. It is the transient shaper in Neutron 5. There's nothing else here, it's just the transient shaper that I'm using. Today's video is sponsored by DistroKid. They let me get my music out to all of the major distributors, and they do that at a price an independent artist can easily afford. If you're ready to get your music or beats out there and want to release an unlimited amount of music each year, check the link in the description below for a discount off of your first year of unlimited distribution with DistroKid. And like I said, if you don't own Neutron 5, there are some other options out there. For example, if you own Complete, you've got Transient Master, which just isn't as detailed but lets you do pretty much the same thing. If you've ever picked up any of the Waves bundles, you might find you've got Trans X. That'll allow you to do this as well. And also the Air Suite has a transient shaper in it. There is also a free one called Flux from Bittersweet. Again, I'll throw that in the link down below as well. If you don't have any of the tools at all, it is a great free option to utilize. What's important here is I've got the track relatively well balanced. It sounds okay without the transient designer on, right? Everything together is relatively well balanced, no vocal in at the moment, but you can hear it all. The drums are punching through, they're there, everything's ebb and flowing quite nicely. We're just going to use this as a little bit of enhancement, just to boop it up just a touch, right? Now on this particular loop section we've got over here, I want you to note that it is minus 0.6 dB. Now when we put the transient shaper in, it is going to go up a tiny bit, but honestly, if you can pick up like 0.3 of a dB, you are some kind of wizard with your ears. Generally, people are like a dB, the average Joe listener 3 dBs before they're really picking up any kind of difference. When you're really in your mix, half a dB, but we are going to bump this up the tiniest amount using the transient shaper that it's effectively negligible, and helps those drums pop through all that more. So the way that we've done it is quite simple. Let me show you. When we switch it on, now it seems like a far more drastic difference, doesn't it? then minus 0.3 dB. It's a huge, it seems like a huge difference, huge loudness change. So in here we've got an attack of 1. So on this particular transient shaper, we can pull this down. It'll actually pull the drums back, much like a compressor. Attack helps push them up. Now that sounds awesome, but we've added loads of gain. If we do it with just 1, like we did before, we're adding a tiny amount of gain that's helping everything pop through and cut through a bit more. We've then got a sustain of 0.5, so it's adding transient energy. It's pushing things up a little bit more, a bit like an expander, and it's got the tiniest little bit of a hold. So it's shooting through and holding it just for a second and then letting it come back down in the tiniest amount. Now the curve here is really important. We're doing sharp. It doesn't mean it comes up linearly with the actual transient. It means the transient comes through and then it enhances it very quickly, and that's what gives that punchy and cut through kind of vibe. As you can see, we're adding tiny amounts here. You can see on here, it's just doing these tiny little bits of gain, but across the whole track, just making it a little bit sharper, a little bit more transient, and cutting it through in the mix. And that's just a quick tip for today, guys, using that transient enhancement on your brakes bus specifically, just to help everything pop through a little bit more. And as you can hear, it's a massive difference for a very small trade-off. We could even dial our bus back the extra minus 0.3 and we would still hear a significant change. Check it out. It's just better in the way it cuts through the mix. It's so much more punchy and aggressive and adds to the vibe. Guys, this is part of the album that I'm working on right now. If you want to hear the whole track when it's finished, I'm hoping to get a pretty awesome vocalist on this, then you can check out where I release all of my music on the major platforms, or Warrior Sound, or Bandcamp, and I do that using the channel sponsor, which you've already seen, which is DistroKid. Thank you very much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in future videos, and take care.